welcome to Fern Between Us, episode 71. I am a sad, lonely one of the four owners of Bebop Winery. Those of you that tune in regularly will see that my partner in crime is not here with me today, and actually Karen, the non-Fern Fern, is not here either. So we have Rose stepping in. She's going to do the show with me, and we're going to be really weird. I do think it's highly suspect that Karen and Jesse are not together, or not here together on the same night, and I think maybe I need to intervene. Anyway, today we are talking about florality in wine, and I do have some questions for you. I'm going to actually allow you guys to keep sending in those questions, because I think that it's a really interesting topic and a little confusing for a lot of people. And anything that I don't talk about or doesn't seem clear on this show, let me know what you want us to dive into, because I'd love to have Jesse's input as well as a winemaker to talk a little bit more in depth about his experience with it. What I am also going to be talking about is our wine club wines. We had the Cabernet Franc and the Nebbiolo. And so I'm doing the Nebbiolo for tonight because it really showcases some beautiful florality, and ours is uniquely different than a lot of Nebbiolo, so we'll get to that in just a second. The other thing that we want to start off with is I should maybe stop saying we, that I want to start off with is our good friend Josh Johnson, who is from the La Chirapata family, and the La Chirapata Winery family, and he actually reached out and had watched the oak segment and informed us that we completely forgot to talk about what our oak program actually is at Bebop, which is hilarious because we kind of delved into it. We did have a lot of negative things to say about whiskey barrels being used in wine aging and production, but we actually love what oak can do. And I think that he raised a really good point that it has amazing attributes, and we do use it during the fermentation to really lift and extend that mid palate. A lot of wines will just fall out as you get to the finish. So it starts with a lot of flavors and profiles, and then it kind of dips, and then you end up with the finish. And having some oak in the fermentation actually really lifts that so that it carries across better. So we love it for that. We love using old oak barrels so that it's not imparting wood as an attribute to the wine. All those great sweet spices that we do love from French oak are really important. We do use that as a tool as well. But having that aging aspect where it is able to sit quietly without taking in additional flavor components, and it's the angel's share as the water evaporates and it condenses that wine. So it's very, very useful, and we're big fans. So that's a short, condensed version of how we're using it. And we see what a great tool it is. Of course, American oak being used in Rioja traditionally gives it that big, bold, wonderful flavor and profile that you look for in a typical Rioja. So there's lots to be said for wonderful use of oak. All right, so what is it that I'm drinking? I'm starting off with a white Bordeaux, which is, it's not an expensive bottle. It was $15 at the local wine shop, Medley, and it's a wonderful expression of subtle florality. And the reason why is because this wine particularly is mostly Semillon, and so a white Burgundy is Semillon and Sauvignon Blanc blend. It does depend on the blend, what you're going to get out of it, but getting a little bit fuller Semillon percentage actually gives you some really beautiful white florals. So that can range from apple blossoms a little bit, orange blossoms where you get a little of that citrus, There's a lot of kind of honeysuckle, where it's a part of the wine, but it's not overpowering it. And somebody did write in a question about not liking Muscat because of its potent floral aspect and usually sweet nature. It lends itself to being a sweet wine, so a lot of people just let it go there. A dry Muscat is really lovely, but it does have a pungent nose, and that is very typical for the grape. But if, as this person asked, are there other wines that maybe they could try that has that florality, the floral element, without it being so intense? And this is a great option for you. Look for some blends where, you know, especially if you're getting into Muscat, maybe just a little bit is added to a white wine blend instead of it being 100% varietal. And this is just such a pretty example of minerality carrying through with that, and really offers so much to enjoy also with food. Of course, number one guide to food pairing is that you don't want the wine to overpower the food, you don't want the food to overpower the wine, and sometimes florals can do that. So this is really, really great, and great acidity. You know, it has those green notes from the Sauvignon Blanc that kind of round it out, give it some depth. And then we are going to jump into the Nebbiolo. And one of the interesting things that, as you start talking about florality, is experiencing different flavors and aromas and what that means to your palate. And one of the interesting things to find in a red wine is when you can taste violets on the palate. So of course your nose is informing your palate of what it's tasting and experiencing, other than the, you know, sweetness, the umami, the acidity, the tannins. All of those things are experiential. But if you smell our Nebbiolo, it actually, I get a lot of citrus flowers. Orange blossom is a big one. Also orange peel from the actual fruit, which is always really interesting. But it has also some lavender, and lavender is a really interesting component for a lot of wines. The other thing is that what we're talking about is terpenes. That's the technical term for all of these florals that you're finding in the wine that are from the grape. And so that's an interesting component, is certain grapes tend toward certain terpenes, and also place really dictates some of that. So without going off on some tangent, one of the things that I think is really incredible about our Nebbiolo, but is also something to take note of, is that it is a little lighter bodied. So some Nebbiolos get a little oomph from Aglianico, and that gives it a deeper, darker aspect where you get a lot more of those violets and lavender and iris sometimes. Really interesting kind of components that, with the fruit component, just make for a beautiful, beautiful wine where you want to go back into that glass again and again. So this is a little bit lighter, but it has great expression, and those florals add to the fruit so much so that you start to get a little of that lavender, which is a little herbaceous, and then you get that dark fruit that just carries through. And this is part of those nuances that you start talking about when you're really looking at a wine and its complexity. The winemaker, what they're doing when they take those initial grapes and say, where do I want to go with this? What do I want to really encourage out of those grapes to make a finished wine? So there are other aspects, of course, you know, adding in the oak. Somebody did want to know, you know, is it a addition to the wine? Of course, when you hear florality, you hear about flowers in the wine, you hear about all these crazy things, and a lot of people, that's a very common question, is are these things being added in? And they're not. And one of the most amazing things is that wine grapes are incredible at transforming and creating stereoisomers during fermentation. So they take everything that they, you know, grew up with, everything they absorbed, and then during fermentation they create stereoisomers, and you can get over 10,000 in a finished wine. And not everybody is going to taste or smell or be able to pull in all of those elements, but it takes practice. So definitely remember, I've talked about this in other episodes. I'm so sorry. Can you stop dancing? You're super distracting. I have got my production assistant dancing in the kitchen. I'm like, wait, what am I saying? But don't forget to have your glass next to the stove so that you can put whatever you're cooking in the glass and smell it. Lavender is a wonderful tool to start using. Mint, rosemary, thyme, oregano, and you can smell all of those in different wines. So that's a really good thing to practice, as well as the fruits, and put those in the glass and smell them. They smell very different. I can't remember where I was. But different wines do showcase a little bit more floral notes. And one of the easiest ones to do is Malbec. Our Malbec is really incredibly beautiful as well. I highly encourage you to try that. But a classic is the Susanna Balbo Malbec. She's won a gazillion awards, is considered one of the most amazing winemakers on the planet, and a female pioneer in the industry as well. So if you really want to see that aspect of violets and some really cool exchanges between that aspect and the dark fruit, it's almost the easiest one to do that with. So I highly encourage you to do that. Let's see, what were some of the other questions? Oh, yes. Talking about aroma versus bouquet, and that can get a little confusing as you're coming into the wine industry too, getting into your favorite wine profiles, learning, exploring. And yes, to the person that wrote that in, they can often get confused with each other. They seem very much the same, but in actuality, what you're looking for is when you smell at the bottom of the glass, you're getting the aromas. So that's inherent to the grape itself. So that's where you're going to get some of those florals and, of course, the fruit notes too. That's what I was saying, is nothing is added to the wine. The stereoisomers are compounds that that copy identically things in our environment. So that's how you're getting all of those things coming through. So you get aroma at the bottom of the glass, and you get the bouquet, what the winemaker did to it, right? So oak aging and all of those sweet spices, if it's been in a new French oak barrel, is going to be up at the top. So for ours, it starts to hint at some of those sweet spices. You generally get a little cinnamon, and then it dissipates because it's not a heavy oaking, which is why a lot of people can miss that it's even been in an oak barrel. But it's so pretty. I love all of the different characteristics that are coming through. So, in order to not bore you to tears, we're going to make this a super short episode. I'm sorry my partner in crime was not here to make it more funny and inappropriate. But hopefully we'll get some fun videos of the property, winemaking, all kinds of stuff coming your way so that we can show different aspects of what we're doing. As we finish up, it is Valentine's Day weekend, and we are set to offer everybody a Valentine's special that is a wine flight with 4 of our incredible wines, perfectly paired with 4 of Liliana's extra chocolates. And the combination is only $24, and it's going to run from Saturday through Monday, the Valentine's, the 14th. And so I hope you guys come over, enjoy that. You can also pick up chocolates and wine to go. And thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys always tuning in and supporting us. And we will see you soon. Cheers.